Fested e-learning forum. My name is Emlyn James Ngwiri. I'll be taking you through equity investment analysis. In this lesson, lesson 1 of free cash flow valuation, we will be looking at 3 questions. The first question we will look at is September 2015 pilot paper, question 4B. Then we will look at November 2015, question 3B. And then we will conclude by looking at November 2016, question 3C. So we start off by looking at September 2015 pilot paper question 4B. It reads as follows. Signet Limited has free cash flow to firm FCFF of 700 million and free cash flow to equity FCFE of 620 million. The firm's before tax cost of debt is 5.7% and its required rate of return on equity is 11.8%. The company expects a target capital structure consisting of 20% debt financing and 80% equity financing. The tax rate is 33.33% and FCFF is expected to grow forever at a rate of 5%. Signet Limited has debt outstanding with a market value of 2.2 billion and 200 million outstanding common shares. Required, Signet Limited's weighted average cost of capital. Part 2, the value of Signet's equity using the FCFE valuation approach. Part 3, the value of the share using the FCFF approach. So the first step is to try and identify the inputs to computing part 1, which is the weighted average cost of capital. So September 2015 question 4B. Part 1 is asking us to compute the weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital. This can be termed as WACC. That. So in computing WACC, we need to identify the input. So WACC is given as weight of equity, cost of equity, I'll explain as we move along, plus weight of debt, cost of debt. In this case, we need the after-tax cost of debt, tax, that, where WE, weight of equity, KE, cost of equity, cost of equity. Right. Then WD, weight of debt. Then KD is cost of debt. Cost of debt. Cost of debt, like that. Now, once we have defined what those inputs are, we need to go back to the question and try and identify what inputs exist. If they all exist, we just plug them in and then we just get the WACC. So WACC is given as weight of equity, cost of equity, plus weight of debt, cost of debt after tax, cost of debt, 1 minus tax. So, which is equals to, what is the weight of equity? On the third paragraph there, we've been told that the target capital structure consists of 20% debt financing and 80% equity financing. So we come here and put you convert it into decimals, 0.8, which is 80%, you multiply that by the cost of equity. The cost of equity, have we been given that? We have been given on the second line there that the firm's before tax cost of debt is 5.7% and its required rate of return, R, is 11.8%. So that is what we're saying is the cost of equity. So it says 0.118. Then we add now the weight of debt. If you have equity being 80%, then of course debt is 20%. So it says 0.2. Then we multiply that by the cost of debt. The cost of debt in the second line, we've been given 5.7%. So it says 0.057, like that. And then we get 1 minus the tax rate. Have we been given the tax rate? We must be given the tax rate somewhere. The tax rate is 33.33, the third line there, 33.33%. So 1 minus 0.3333, like that. So go ahead and use the calculator to try and get the weighted average cost of capital. So the weighted average cost of capital is 0.8 times 0.118 multiplied by 0.2 times 0.057, and then that you multiply by 1 minus 0.333. Close the brackets again. It gives us different figure here. Let me just compute it slowly then. 0.8 times 0.118. What we get? 0.0944. So we have 0.0944 plus, let's compute that one separately so that we cannot mix issues. You're saying we get 0.2 multiplied by 0.057 equals that. You multiply that by 1 minus 0.333. Close the brackets, equals. So we have 0.0076. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be giving me 0.0076. So 1 minus 0.333 is 0.677. Then you multiply that by 0.2. Then you multiply that by 0.057. Yes, it gives me now something. So we're having 0.0076. That. So adding the two together, so we now add 0.0944. We're saying we have 0.102, or we are saying we are getting 10.2%. This is the weighted average cost of capital. That answers part 1 of the question. Part 2 of the question is asking the value of Signet's equity using the FCFE valuation approach. So part 2 saying, so we need to calculate the value of equity. So VE is given as FCFE, I'll explain these inputs, 1 plus G over R minus G. That. So where, cross off on this other side, FCFE is free cash flow to firm. To firm. Right? Then we have G is growth rate. Then we have R is equals to required return. Required return. Then VE is value of equity. That. So we say VE is given as FCFE, like that, 1 plus G, like that, over R minus G. We try and see if all of the inputs are there. Have we been given the free cash flow to equity? Yes, we've been given 620 million, so we work with millions. So we put 620, like that. Then 1 plus G, so we have 1 plus the growth rate. The growth rate in FCFE hasn't been given. We've only been given the growth rate in FCFF. So we add 0 there, then we divide by required return. If you remember, the required return is the same as this cost of equity. You're saying 0.118 there. So we are saying we put in 0.118 minus the growth rate of an FCFE, which you're saying in this case is 0. So how much do we get as the value of equity? So working it out very quickly, systematically. So we're saying it's just the top, the numerator is just 620 million. So 620 divided by, open the brackets, or rather, 620 divided by 0.118 directly like that. You're saying we're getting 5,254 million. 5,254 million point 2. Then I can put over here million like that. That is the value of Signet's value of equity, Signet's equity. In part 3 of the question, we're being asked now the value per share using the FCFF approach. Using the FCFF approach, move over to this other side. You can grab here. Value per share. So the value per share using the FCFF approach, value per share, part 3, value per share using the FCFF approach. So the formula is F is equal, value of the firm is given as FCFF 1 plus G over work. Remember the work which you had computed? Yes, we've computed it right over there. We got 10.2%. Work minus G, like that. Where VF, value of the firm, then FCFF is free cash flow to firm. Cash flow to firm. That. Then work, we had already explained what work is, weighted average cost of capital, so we don't need to go ahead and explain that, as well as G. G represents the growth rate in FCFF. So G, we are saying growth rate. Growth rate. That. So moving over on this other side, don't want to rub the answer we've got for FC, for weighted average cost of capital rather. We got 10.2, so you can put that 10.2 somewhere here. So we have right here, you can put work is 10.2% like that. So we're moving over from here, we have value of the firm is given as FCFF 1 plus G over work minus G, which you're saying, try and see if all of the inputs have been given to us there. So the inputs in FCFF, 700 million. Can you see it on the very first line there? So it's 700 million there. 1 plus, what is the growth rate in FCFF? The growth rate in FCFF is 5%, 0.05. And over work. Work, we've gotten it over there as 10.2%. Converting it into decimals, we are saying it is 0.102 minus 0.05. Like that, going by this above formula here. So now, how much do we get as the value of the firm? So we have 700 multiplied by 1.05 equals, it gets 735 divided by 0.102 minus 0.05. Like that. We have 14,134.6. 14,134.6, like that, million. Like that. But now, since we've been told the value per share, we need to exclude from this value of the firm, we need to exclude the component of debt. Once we exclude the component of debt, we will be able to get the value of equity Then once we get the value of equity, we divide it by the number of shares outstanding. So in this case, the debt component, outstanding debt, do we have any debt amounting there? We have FCFE, we have the debt financing is 80%, the tax rate is 33.3. Yes, you've been given on the very last sentence there, Signet Limited has a debt outstanding with a market value of 2.2 billion. So we are saying to get the value of equity, like that, is given as the value of farm, like that, minus, there is very key, minus debt. That. Please note this. The value of equity is given as the value of the farm minus the debt component. So in this case, the value of equity we are saying is 14,134.6 minus, now the debt, we've been given 2.2 billion. So to convert it into million for being very consistent, for consistency purposes, we're saying is 2,200. That. So how much is the value of equity? So we have 14,134.6 minus 2,200. We have 11,934.6. 11,934.6 million. That. So moving over on this other side, for us to get the equity value, we need to divide by the number of shares. We need to divide by the number of shares. So we have is equals to 11,934.6. You divide by the number of shares outstanding. How many shares do we have outstanding? We have 200 million shares outstanding. So correct for me to put 200 like that. So once you divide that, we will be able to get the value per share using the FCFF approach. So we have answer, you divide that by 200. How much do we have? We have 59.67 per share. 59.67 per share. Like that. That is the answer and concludes September 2015 question 4B. Now we move over to November 2015 question 3B. So November 2015 question 3B reads as follows. The following information is available for Mapambo Limited. You've been given capital expenditure 20 million, corporate tax rate 30%, debt repayment 23 million, depreciation charge 10 million. Income statement extract has been given. You've been given the sales in million 650, less cost of sales 438, you get 212, less operating expenses 107.5, less interest expense of 8, you get 96.5, then less tax rate, you get 28.95. The net income after subtracting the tax rate or the tax component, you get 67.55. Required. The free cash flow to equity, part 1. Part 2 is saying the free cash flow to farm. The free cash flow to equity, free cash flow to farm. So let's start off. If you allow me, I can use that side. So we're looking at November 2015. 2015, question 3B. There. So part 1 is asking the free cash flow to equity. To equity. Or we are saying into brackets FCFE. Just trying to shorten it a bit. So FCFE is given by the following. So I can wrap this lining there. FCFE is given as net income plus NCC, I'll explain them, plus interest 1 minus tax, then you less fixed capital investments, then you less working capital investments, like that. Then you less interest, 1 minus tax. Then you add net borrowing. That. Where, I'll explain what these ones are, including all of these here, this other side. So I'll explain them very briefly. Don't be intimidated by the formula. It's very easy to recall. Where NI, net income. NCC, non-cash charges. Into brackets, depreciation and amortization. Okay. Then INT, interest component. Then we also have FC, INV, fixed capital investments. That. Then WCINV, working capital investments. That. Anything else? We have already, there is the tax rate there. There is the net borrowing. Net borrowing is the difference between the borrowing, the long-term borrowing and the short-term borrowing there. So that is pretty direct. We'll be able to derive it from this extract there. But notice one key thing there. One key thing on the formula here is that you can be able to see that this interest component over here nets off, because here you're saying is plus interest 1 minus tax, and over here you're saying is minus interest 1 minus tax. So is it correct to say that we can be able to just cross off those two? And we have this final formula for FCFE. FCFE is equals to net income plus non-cash charges plus interest, rather, that one was already cancelled now. So minus fixed capital investments minus working capital investments, like that. Then you add net borrowing. Like that. So plug in the inputs. We need to look at whether all the inputs have been given to us. I can be able to see the net income there is 67.55. So 67.55 plus non-cash charges, any depreciation and any amortization. Yes, you can see depreciation charge of 10 million there. So 10, then you minus fixed capital investments. The fixed capital investments represents capital expenditures. You can be able to see the 20 million there, yes. So 20, then minus working capital investments. There is nothing to do with working capital investments given to us in that extract there. So minus 0. Then you add net borrowing. So net borrowing in this case is debt repayment. Debt repayment. So debt repayment is 23 million. Like that. So how much do we get as FCFE? So 67.55, we add 10, then we less 20, then we add 23. 80.55 million. So we have the FCFE as 80.55 million. Like that. That is part 1. Part 2 of the question is asking us to compute the free cash flow to farm. Free cash flow to farm. It's almost similar to the free cash flow to equity, with just some minor difference, a small difference. We're saying FCFE, rather FCFF, we've already looked at FCFE, FCFF is given as net income plus non-cash charges plus interest, 1 minus tax, then minus fixed capital investments, minus working capital investments. That's it. So we try and identify the inputs. I've explained all of the inputs there, so we don't need to explain them again. We try and slot them in. So we have the net income as 67.55 plus non-cash charges 10 plus, do we have an interest component? Yes, we have an interest expense of 8. 1 minus the tax rate. Have we been given the tax rate there? We've been told the tax rate is 30% up there. 0.3 minus fixed capital investments. In this case, the fixed capital investments is 20 million. Minus working capital investments is 0. So how much do we get as FCFF? So 67.55. Then you add 10. Then you add 8. Now you multiply that by times 0.7. 8 times 0.7. Yeah. Then 8 times 0.7. Then we less 20 million. Minus 20 million. We have 63.15. 63.15 million. Just try and arithmetic check, a quick arithmetic check. So you have 8 times 0.7 minus equals minus 20 equals, then you add 10 plus 67.55. Yes, 63.15 million. And that answers November 2015 question 3B. Our final question this session is to look at November 2016 question 3C. It reads as follows. Momentum Enterprises Limited has a free cash flow to farm of 700 million and a free cash flow to equity FCFE of 620 million. The company's before tax cost of debt is 5.7% and its required rate of return is 11.8%. The company expects a target capital structure consisting of 20% debt financing and 80% equity financing. The tax rate is 30% and FCFF is expected to grow forever at a rate of 5% per annum. The company has an outstanding debt with a market value of 2.2 billion and has 200 million shares outstanding. Required. Number 1, the weighted average cost of capital WACC of the company. Number 2, the value of Momentum Enterprises Limited's equity using the FCFF valuation approach. Part 3, the value per share using the FCFF approach. This question had also been covered at the pilot paper or in the pilot paper, September 2015, question 4B. The only thing that they've actually changed is the name of the company. So for the learner, it is my request to tell you that when you're doing your revision, you also, as you're doing the September 2015 question 4B, which you've already covered, you also need to look at November 2016 question 3C, because that will form or will create a very solid foundation for you during your revision. Once again, thank you for being with us, and I hope to see you in our next lesson.
Greetings to you all and welcome to the lesson. The subject is business and data analytics. We've been studying the first topic, Introduction to Data Analytics. So far, we've done the CRISP, which is an acronym for the Cross-Industry Standard Processing for Data Mining Framework. Under that subtopic, we discussed the data concepts, the conceptual concept, logical concept, physical, and also physical data models. We went through the stages in data life cycle. Then in the second subtopic, we've begun looking at big data and data analytics. We, in our last lesson, defined big data. In our today's session, we're going to describe the 5 V's of big data. The 5 V's of big data. And to remind you, candidates, big data, as the name suggests, is data that is very large. Big data is defined as very large data sets having large, varied, and complex structure with difficulties of storing, analyzing, and visualizing for further processes or results. So big data is a combination of the unstructured data, the semi-structured data, and the structured data. All right? Big data is a combination of data that is unstructured, semi-structured, and structured. Unstructured, semi-structured, and structured. Do you understand? And big data can be mined to gain insights, leading to predictive modeling and other advanced analytics applications. Big data can also be used to improve operations. Big data can be used to provide customer service. Big data can be used to create personalized marketing campaigns. And all that increases value. Okay? And as an example, big data can provide companies with valuable insights into their customers that can then be used to refine marketing techniques to increase customer engagement and conversion rates. And organizations that use big data have a potential competitive advantage over those that don't have, since they make faster and more informed business decisions as provided by the data. So in our today's lesson, we are going to describe the 5 V's of big data. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to describe the 5 V's of big data. And these V's also help us to understand characteristics of big data. The V's are: 1, volume; 2, variety; 3, velocity; 4, veracity; 5, value. 5 V's. 1 V, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 V's. The first one is volume. Volume refers to the quantity of data. Volume refers to the quantity of data. It refers to the amount of data that exists. And volume is like the base of big data, as it is the initial size and amount of data that a company can collect. And if the volume is large enough, it can be considered big data. But we know what is considered to be big data is relative. What is big data to company A may be small data to company B. And may also change depending on the available computing power that is on the market. So volume refers to the quantity of data. Number 2, variety. Variety, on the other hand, refers to data types. Types refers to data types, because we have diverse types of data. We have diversity of data types. An organization may obtain data from a number of different data sources, which may vary in value. Data can be obtained from outside an enterprise, or data can be obtained from within the enterprise. We saw earlier we have unstructured data, which we know is data that is unorganized and comes in different files or formats, such as texts, audio data, we have video format, log files, and so on. We have data that is semi-structured. This is data that may not have been properly organized into specialized repository, but it may have associated information. And it makes it easier to process it as compared to the unstructured data. But structured data, meanwhile, is data that has been organized into formatted repository, meaning that such data is made more addressable for effective data processing and analysis. So there are various data types depending on data that is received from different sources. Data may be in form of text, it may be verbal, it may be written, it may be in video format, data may be in audio format, data may be obtained from without the organization, data can be obtained from within the organization. So this is a characteristic of big data. And I've said data that is structured is easier to process and analyze such data as compared to data that is unstructured. Then thirdly, we have velocity as the third V of big data. Velocity. Now, velocity refers to the time that is taken to process and analyze data. It refers to how quickly data is generated and how quickly data moves from point A to point B. And velocity is an important aspect for companies that need data to move quickly. There may be need to have quick data flow so that such data is available at the right time to make the best business decisions possible. And an organization that uses big data will have large and continuous flow of data that is being created and sent to different destinations. All right? Big data being generated quickly. Big data being processed quickly or sent to different destinations for processing. And we say that data could flow from sources such as machines, such as networks, such as smartphones. Data can flow from sources such as social media. And such data needs to be digested and analyzed quickly. And at times, such data ought to be analyzed real time. And I can also say that it may be better to have limited set of collected data than to collect more data that an organization can handle. Why? Because that can lead to slower data velocities. For what is the point of having big data that is not analyzed or that is not processed? So it's rather you have a limited amount of data that can be processed, that can be digested, that can be quickly analyzed, if possible real time, because at times information may be required, decisions may be required to be made real time. Therefore, data has to be made available for making such decisions. Velocity refers to how quickly data is generated and how quickly data is moved or flows from point A to point B. The fourth V is veracity. Veracity. Veracity refers to the accuracy of data. The accuracy of data. The correctness of data. The quality of data that is gathered. So gathered data could have sometimes missing pieces. Data gathered could also be inaccurate. And it may also not be able to provide real valuable insight. So veracity refers to the level of trust that a leader has in the collected data. Because sometimes data can be messy. Data can be messy, data can be difficult to use. And large amount of data can cause more confusion than insights, especially if such data is not complete. So veracity refers to accuracy, refers to the quality, refers to the trust that the leader has in the information that is gathered. The correctness of data. So data that has missing, that is not accurate, that is data that cannot be relied upon in making decisions. So veracity is a very important feature of big data. Then we have value. Value. Value refers to the value that big data can provide, the added value that big data can provide, and it relates directly to what organizations can do with the collected data. Because big data is only relevant or important if it adds value. Being able to pull value from big data is a requirement, as the value of big data increases significantly depending on the insights that can be gained from them. So it's not enough to have big data. It's not enough to just gather data and have data. The question is such data valuable to the organization? And organizations can use the same big data tools to gather and analyze the data, but how they derive value from that data should be unique to them. All right? So here data refers to the quality of data. The value, this we said refers to the quality of data. This is value added. Veracity refers to the quality of data. The quality of data. The accuracy of data. So, candidates, these are the 5 V's of big data. 5 V's of big data. The first V, volume. Volume. The second V, variety. The third V, velocity. The fourth V, veracity. Then lastly, value. We've said volume refers to the quantity, the amount of data. Variety refers to the data types, which could be unstructured, semi-structured, or structured. We say that data comes in different types, could be in different formats: audio format, text format, video format, log files, and so on. Velocity refers to the time that the organization takes to generate big data and to process or analyze big data. Veracity, on the other hand, refers to the accuracy or quality of big data. Veracity. Then lastly, value, which we've said refers to the value that big data can provide. We've said that it relates directly to what organizations can do with the data that is collected. We said collecting data is not enough. What is important is what value do you derive from the data that has been collected? And that brings the lesson to an end. The objective of this lesson was that by the end of this lesson, you, the learner, should be able to describe the 5 V's of big data, and that will form the basis of our today's assignment. Describe the 5 V's of big data. Thank you for attending this lesson. I hope to meet you in our next lesson. We'll continue to share knowledge in business and data analytics. Thank you. God bless you. Bye.
Thank you, learners, for attending our Sunday session. My name is Mugambi Nicholas. I'm going to take you through derivatives analysis. Derivative analysis is a CIFA Section 6 unit. Our first topic for today, we are going to look at the introduction to derivative market and instruments, whereby we are going to familiarize ourselves with the introduction, cover definitions, what derivatives are, and then we are going to look at the various types of derivatives, being forward commitments and contingent claims. We are also going to have an overview of derivative markets, regulation, and the type of players in the derivative markets. Then we are going to look at the purpose of derivative, the market and the instruments. We are going to touch on some few criticisms that scholars over the years have had to say about derivatives, and we are going to say in brief about the elementary principles of derivatives and the pricing. So welcome. analysis. So, topic 1 will be Introduction to Derivative Market and Instruments. Derivative markets and instruments. And instruments. So the major, like I have highlighted, major areas, subtopics under these will be number 1, an introduction. We will also look at the types of derivatives, and here there are 2 broad categories. We have said they are forward commitments and then we have another category called contingent claims. We will also look at hybrid instruments. Our third area of focus will be the purpose of derivative market. Purpose, I know our syllabus calls for us to tackle on the criticisms of derivative markets, but I would urge that at this level we defer that until such a later time we have understood both the various derivatives, we have done the pricing, the valuation, and the risk management is when we will come out and do in a deep dive the criticisms. We will stop at the elementary principles of derivative pricing. Elementary principles of derivative pricing. Here is more to do with the law of one price and arbitrage opportunities. So, in the introduction part of it, what is a derivative? Like the name suggests, derive. A derivative, we can say, it is a financial instrument that derives its value from another. What do I mean? This financial instrument could be an asset, and this asset could be a security, yeah, like a share, a bond, yeah, a currency, yes, or exchange rate, isn't it? Or even a commodity, things like gold, precious metals, yeah, or agricultural products. So this item that gives the value to the other is called what? The underlying instrument. So a derivative being the value that is being derived from another, it's in form of a contract. So derivative is essentially what? A contract. They are paper contracts like a contract I'm holding, where we will say a derivative is a financial instrument that offers a return based on some other underlying asset. If this paper like this is a derivative instrument, and then we have another instrument, an asset, like a share, from which this paper derives its what? Its value from. So we are seeing that this is a financial instrument. Financial instrument. And this financial instrument could be, the financial instrument that derives its value from another what? Financial assets. So this derivative, that's a financial instrument, is in form of a contract. Yeah, and this other financial instrument, we are calling it underlier or underlying. They are called the underlying. It's called the underlying. And what is this financial asset? It could be, this financial asset could be a share, it could be a bond, it could be a currency, or it could be a commodity. And what do I mean of a commodity? A commodity is something like gold, for example, agricultural produce like wheat, yeah, or also something we call vintage items. Like old stamps, old cars. We have seen of late people going what? To value very old stamps. We have seen even artwork, isn't it? That is worth millions and millions of what? US dollars or pounds there in the international market. So what we are saying that is that these contracts, financial instruments now that are created from the underlying, they form what? What we call a derivative. That is a derivative. Yeah. And it trades in a market in which buyers and sellers meet what? To decide the price. The price for the immediate delivery, where buyers and sellers now meet for to define the price, they define two prices. The first price is called the cash price, or what we call the spot, is the price of this share, is the price of this bond today. And also they can get what we call a future price. Yeah, what is the value 5 days from now, where it will be worth of the Safaricom share what? 3 months from today. The derivative also, this, because it is a contract, this contract, a derivative, as what? Limited time frame. Yeah, so for us to drive its value, is it for 3 months? Is it for 4 months? Is it for 1 year? So the parties who are going to engage, the party that is going to buy, I agree to buy from another party, which is the seller. I will buy 3 months from now. I will buy 1 year from now. So it has a limited time frame. We are also looking that a derivative is essentially, now, what is the essence of the contract? The essence of the contract, essence of the derivative contract. So we are saying that for us to form this paper agreement,
it is an agreement between two parties in which one agrees to do something for the other. So we have two parties who come to do something for the other. And this, what is this that they promise each other to do? It is one party giving the other some money, or the other party receiving the other from some money. That is, one of the elements they do for each other is giving each other